Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. Welcome to our show that's for you, those that work so hard for your money, and you're now ready for your money to start working harder for you today. You want that cash flow and freedom right now because why? Because you want that freedom. You want that cash flow today so you can live that life that you love with those that you love. But most importantly, guys, it's not just about getting rich. It's about living a rich life because as you're blessed financially, you have a greater capacity to bless the lives of others. Welcome to our show. Again, thank you for tuning in, for sharing. Big shout out to those of you that have been tuning in. I know many of you guys are starting to follow us from LinkedIn, from Facebook, and heck, even some of you guys have just been finding us on YouTube, and I love it. Like, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for binging and sharing on these episodes. Hey, as a quick tip for you, speaking of binging, if you're in the position where you're trying to learn how to invest better, start from these newer episodes and work backwards. If, however, you're maybe somebody that's in the entrepreneur space, maybe you're just starting out, I would recommend going earlier. And if you can't get back to those early episodes because you can only see the last 300, which is the last really 3 years, if you want to go back earlier to the ones previous to those episodes 400, you can actually go to blogtalkradio.com/money ripples and be able to download more podcasts today. Now, I'll apologize up front. They're not the best quality videos and audios. Really, they're just audios. They're not the best quality, but you know what? They're still awesome, still good content. So be sure to check that out if you're looking to binge on more, especially if you're a business owner.
Chris Miles was able to retire twice by the time he was 39 years old. But he's not content to just enjoy his own financial freedom and peace of mind. Chris wants you to have your own ripple effect so you can live free today. He's not the financial advisor you expected. He's the anti-financial advisor you deserve. He's jumping behind the mic right now, ready to make waves. Here's Chris Miles.
All right, guys. So I want to talk to you today about real freedom, right? What's the true wealth, the true freedom that you can have? Now, I've talked about this a little bit already in episodes recently. I've kind of been on this kick of really digging into the psyche because it's not just about the strategy, right? I tell you this all the time. The strategy is easy. What's hardest is your mindset. And what's hardest is how you perceive your money and what that actually creates for you on an emotional level. And I'll tell you, almost everybody that comes to us, we get a lot of clients that come in, they usually have at least 150,000, 200,000 of money. They're saying, listen, I want this money to do something. I want it to work harder for me so I don't have to work hard for my money. Like you say on your podcast, Chris, what can I do with it? Well, when you really get down to what they're saying is, Chris, I have a decent amount of money, or maybe I even make good money too. That's helped me have this money, but it's not enough to just have money or have a good income. That's a deception, right? Many people believe if I just make a lot of money, then I'm living the high life, right? I'm living free. And I'm not saying having good income doesn't help your life, improve your quality of life. But the truth is, really, once you get to a certain point, certain income, it doesn't matter. What you really want and what most of our clients really say that they want is they want time freedom. They believe that money freedom will give them time freedom. It's not the money that you ultimately want, it's what you believe that money will give you. And time is a big one for each of you. Because how many of you would love just to have more time with your family right now? How many would just love to have more time for your passions or for your hobbies or for that time just to step away? And some of you make great income. And I know this because I've been this person, and sometimes I even go back to being this person, is that I think I have to just keep working, keep myself busy sometimes. But in truth, can you take off a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month? Can you do that and still feel free? Now, that's not a lot of time if you think about it. If you take off, say, a month away from your job or your business, would you feel free right now? Now, you might have certain situations where you might realize, well, my job requires me to be there, so I'm there. Right, we get that. But even business owners, I was speaking with a dentist just recently. She has kind of a similar problem I've had before too, which is if I step away from my practice, if I step away from my business for more than a week or two, it's going to fail. The truth is, I've done it. It really doesn't. That's sometimes created in our minds. But notice that that restricts our freedom right there. We don't allow ourselves to be free. We end up thinking, no, I have to be stuck here. Now, that's a different situation than just time freedom. Because understand, you could have money freedom, have all the passive income you could have, but not give yourself permission to enjoy it. So that's a whole nother issue I'll address here in a little bit. But I want to get back to What you're ultimately thinking you're buying is time. You want to buy your time back. You want to be able to at least have the option where you don't have to go to work, where you don't have to keep slaving away day in and day out. And it doesn't matter if you have a good, high paying job, you know that that slaving away is continuous because you don't know when it can actually stop. You don't know because you've been putting your money in the crappiest of places. You've been putting it into paying off your house and paying off your debts. You've been putting it to paying into your 401ks or IRAs, only to realize that there's not really a true end in sight. And that is the trap. That is the place that we got to break you away from. So I'm going to offer some advice here that actually give you that time freedom today, right? And that advice is simply this. It's advice I've given many times before, which is get lean, get liquid, and get out. Get lean, get liquid, get out. For example, get lean. Start tracking your money. Know where all your money is, where it's going. This is why, for those that are in the Wealth Accelerator Academy of ours, or even our VIP clients, we have the cash flow optimizer you can download. Some of you guys who were on the webinar recently actually got a copy of this. And so, this cash flow optimizer has you track your income and expenses. It has you looking at your assets and your liabilities. What do you own versus what do you owe, right? We're looking at these things. Why? Because whatever you measure will grow and expand, right? It can improve. But whatever you ignore will leave you. It will decay. It'll become worse, right? If you ignore your muscles, they will decay. You ignore your teeth, they'll fall out, right? You ignore your marriage, that'll decay and leave you. Everything leaves you when you don't pay attention to it. Therefore, we have you pay attention to the very things that you want to improve. That's got to be income and expenses, which is ultimately your cash flow, as I call it. See, many people talk about cash flow, they make it synonymous with passive income, but that's not the case. Cash flow is how much more income do you have than expenses? That's a very different situation here because that gap there creates more relief, creates more freedom. Because who cares if you make $500,000 a year if you're spending 550,000 a year? You live in a bad, big rat race, don't you? Vice versa. What if you made 500,000 a year, but then you're only living on say 250,000 a year? That means there's a quarter million a year you could be taking and using that to generate more passive income to also buy you more time back. The problem is, however, is that there's this Parkinson's law that says whenever there's a rise of income, there's usually a rise of expenses. Or in other words, if you go from an energetic place, the law of the vacuum, right? Or in science, they talk about the vacuum. Space abhors a vacuum. It always tries to fill a vacuum. Same thing is true with your money. If you're always making more money and you then spend more, you're just falling trap into that very thing. So the way to get out of that trap is to capture it, to keep those expenses smaller than your income. Notice I didn't say stay cheap. I didn't say live on rice and beans. Bless your heart, Dave Ramsey. I didn't say that at all, did I? I said, keep your expenses lower than your income. That also implies you may want to increase your income. Find ways to increase income. How do you deliver more value for your employer or in your business that you're in? Look for ways to be more profitable if you're a business owner. How can you be more profitable and using that money to actually help you really create more freedom within your own business? Otherwise, you just create a bigger rat race, don't you? You just create a bigger trap. Yes, you might look great from the outside. Everybody else might see that your life looks wonderful, but I've talked to many, many of you, hundreds, if not probably thousands of you. The thing is always the same. It doesn't matter if you make millions in your business. If you don't have that passive income coming in, you still worry in the back of your mind how you're ever going to be free. You still worry, well, I have to keep working like this forever. Even though you know that you make a great living and you have freedom and you could post on social media about all the trips you did and everything else, how your kids are playing sports and they're in private schools or whatever it might be. But the truth is, and I know the truth, is that you think this may never end, that you're going to have to keep working and slaving away to create that kind of life. You built your own prison. And I get this because I've been you. I get it. The best way out of this is to start by getting leaner with your money. It doesn't mean you cut out all the fun and enjoyment out of your life. Quite the opposite. Instead, it's prioritizing what brings you the greatest joy, put your money there. Realizing that if you've got, I don't care if you make 50,000 a year and you spend 30,000 a year, that's 20,000 you could put away. You could actually come out more free than the person that's making 200, 300,000 a year. You get my gist? So find the way to have as much profit as possible, as much gap between your income and expenses, so that money then has a job so that you don't fall prey to Parkinson's law. That money has a job to then go and work for you. Get that money working for you instead of running away. And then you're wondering who's left working, which is you. If you can get your money captured, if you can get hold of them and get them to work for you, is like this, like almost like this army working for you, right? Like getting this money to start working as your employees, get that money out and working for you. That's where it gets better. That's what I mean by get lean. This also implies get liquid. Get liquid means get that cash in your possession. Do not trap your money into a bunch of equity in real estate. Do not trap your money into 401ks and IRAs, places where you get your hand slapped. That includes annuities. We've had clients recently where they've put their money into annuities, and now not only do they have to worry about how to avoid taxes if they try to cash it out, but also they've got surrender fees because the insurance companies will charge separate fees on these annuities, which are just like like mutual funds, but they're different, right? They're almost like a savings vehicle, like a CD. And those things, even though they could be tied to the stock market, could also lose money. And even if they couldn't lose money, still you're in bondage because it's locked up because of that certain time period before those surrender fees are gone. You need to make sure you have your money liquid and available. This is why we talk so much about infinite banking, not because that's the answer, right? That by itself is not the answer, but it's a nice place to store money where you can get paid a lot better than you would just letting it sit in a bank account earning point nothing percent, and then you get taxed on point nothing percent. So that's a great strategy to use to build liquidity, to build up cash to then use to get it out. That's the third thing. So we say get lean, right? Watching your money, make sure you have more income than expenses, living well within your means, and then taking that money and using it for yourself. That's part of getting liquid, get your money into liquid places, right? That means stop funding things that don't help you become free today. Don't put your money in vehicles that make you wait till you're 60 or older, depending on what the government feels like, whatever rules they tell you to play by at that time. Get that money, then liquid, and then get it out. That's where you deploy it into true assets, cash flowing, passive income assets, those that create predictable income for you every month or every quarter. Is providing that income, which is helping you to buy your time back. That is essential. That is what's key. That, and really, I would say this, as it might sound simple, and that's because it is. It really is simple to do. The hard part, though, is many of you will ask, well, where do I go? How do I get that money working for me? How do I know to put it in the right places? Because isn't the real estate market dangerous right now? And my answer is, in some places, yes, it is. There are some markets that I would not even touch with a 10-foot pole. Heck, I wouldn't even touch it with a 10 state poll, depending on which state it's in, right? You got to be careful of those things. The great news is, of course, that there are resources out there. There are things available. Like that's why we have our clients, we have them meet with people that we've vetted. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but to know that we've vetted these people that have been investing for usually at least minimum 12, 15 plus years, they've been through these cycles, they know what they're doing. Therefore, you're not taking as much risk. Heck, even if you want to buy properties, even if you say, I don't want to put my money with other people, I want to control it myself, but I want to be a babysitter on my properties. Great. There's ways to buy properties where somebody else babysits it for you. They have property managers taking care of the issues for you rather than you have to take care of it. Again, there's good and bad. There's pros and cons to each of these situations. And that's why people say, yeah, but I've got this money, but where should it go? That's where it depends. It depends on the situation, depends on where your money is, depends on your goals. Do you want cash flow or growth or both? There's a lot of goals there. That's what we kind of help you discover when we work with you at Money Ripples. And of course, you can always ask us. You can go to moneyripples.com and contact us if you want to know more, or even go to our passive income calculator. Take that, and you can find out how much passive income you could generally create in the next 12 months. So that's a great way you can do that. But those are the things, even if you don't use us, right? Regardless if you use us or not, this is the key to creating time freedom is you get your money out, liquid available, make sure you get your expenses down, and then get it working for you to create passive income. One more point on getting lean. One of the reasons we want to get lean is because if we can bring your expenses down, it makes it easier for you to become work optional, meaning that you have enough passive income coming in to replace those expenses. Understand that if your expenses are 20,000 a month right now, right, which is quite a bit of money to be spending every month. If it's 20,000 a month, you got to bridge that gap by creating enough passive income. And I'll tell you this, I mean, to make 20,000 a month, even if you just made a simple 10% return, you need almost $2.5 million. But what if you get it down to 15,000 a month? Well, now you need about $700,000 less to do that. It's not as hard to achieve that. So that's my real advice to you is do all three of these things. Don't overlook any of them. Is get lean, get your money liquid so it's not tied up and trapped in places, and then get it out working for you to create passive income. And of course, we can help you with that if that's something you need help with. I'd recommend reaching out, especially if you have at least $150,000 or so to invest. Now, I want to come back to the point I mentioned earlier, because here's something I've seen people do even when they get out of that quote unquote rat race, they become work optional, they have enough passive income to pay all their monthly bills. The problem is this, is that you are not free unless you can become mentally and emotionally free too. So I mentioned that, there's people that make great money in their businesses, yet they don't feel like they could take time off. And I've seen this true even with people that have enough money to be able to quit their jobs, but still they don't feel like they can. And there's various reasons for that, but it usually comes down to one thing is that you try to address the math of your money, but you forget to address the mindset of your money. It's not about math, it's about mindset. How do you address the mindset of your money to stay in a place of abundance versus scarcity? Understand this is why, if you're in a situation where you constantly kind of find yourself in that saver category versus a steward category, savers, give you an example, they have to pay off debt. They cannot stand debt because they've been taught it's evil. They can't save enough money because even if you save enough money, they feel like they can never stop. That's a scarcity emotion. Stewards, however, know that they have choice, they have options, there's abundance out there. They're also patient, they're not impatient. They're willing to wait and make it work for them. They're not willing to gamble like some of the spenders will do. Some of the spenders, when they do investing, often they'll just gamble their money away. Why? Because they gamble their money away in spending too. So you got to be careful of that. So often the extreme spenders can become gamblers, but also extreme savers can become hoarders and they can never stop. They can never give themselves permission. I'm going to tell you this, you have permission. Try it out. So let's just say, for example, you haven't been able to take off more than a week without freaking out. Try a week and a half, try 2 weeks, test your limits, try it out, and just remind yourself everything's going to be okay. Right now, if you have a job, you're taking off all the time. Okay, it's possible they might get rid of you because if you're not delivering value, fine. But if you're a business owner, especially, if you're a business owner, you have the ability to hire people and create systems to make that work. And let's just say, for example, let's just say you did decide to take off a month and you just shut down your business for that period of time. You just told everybody, listen, I'm going out of town, I'll be back. And maybe you set up some things in motion in the meantime. Maybe you have a virtual assistant taking care of the basic things with your emails. Have them do that. Great. Let's see what happens. I'll tell you, I mean, there was a time where I was going through a divorce. I couldn't emotionally handle anything. Now, this is back in 2015. And so that fall of 2015 was a rough one for me. Now, I barely even answered my own emails, but I did learn a valuable thing is that the company was still there. Now, I get it. If you all of a sudden just stop showing up to your job, you ghost your employer, your job may not be there. I get that there's a difference there. But that's not too different from a business owner either. Business owners, if they stop serving their clients, they might walk away. I've done this with people where I've hired them. All of a sudden they say, I got to take a break. And then I stop using them for a while until I actually know that they're really legitimately back in business. Again, you can prepare people mentally for that time you take off. You might have to prepare I think you're gonna have to prepare yourself more mentally to take that time off. I want you to try to give yourself that freedom. Do those little tests. 4-hour work week. Tim Ferriss talks about this as well. It's like testing with your employer, trying to take Fridays off. It's funny how he talked about working virtually, and people were like, "Oh, I can't do that." And then after 2020, virtual became another real option. I get it. Some mindset for employers had to go there. They had to be able to trust. They had to have faith in you too, that you weren't going to just squander your time and not be productive. But I am telling you, there are ways to make this happen. It's going to require you to have that permission. And you need to start it now before you're financially free to get this permission to work. Otherwise, you're going to get to the point of financial freedom. You'll have the ability to buy your time back, but you won't use it because you're too scared to do that. So that's my challenge to you is find ways to stretch your test your limits a little bit. Test those limiting beliefs that you have so that when the money is there, when the money's come in, you can truly be free, where money is no longer determining whether you do or do not do something. Money is not the primary reason that's stopping you from living your life. It becomes a tool. It actually becomes something to help you live your life now. That can start today, even when you're not financially free. You just have to choose to do it. So, guys, that's my advice to you. Uh, if I spoke to you, thank you so much. Please, if you're watching this video, like, subscribe. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or something like that, please review and say this is an awesome episode. And if this wasn't your favorite episode, find one that was and review it too as well. But I'm here to tell you guys, you can make a difference in your life. If we can support you, go to moneyripples.com. We can help you out there today. Go and make it a wonderful, prosperous week. We'll see you later.